Hey, Beth Messiah. Rabbi Derek Blumenthal here. Wanted to wish you all a Chag Sameach, happy Passover, and happy Yom Bikurim. Today is first fruits, which even on our Jewish calendar is when Yeshua rose from the dead. This is Resurrection Day. It happens to coincide this year with the Christian celebration of the resurrection, which is just fine. We found Bikurim in Leviticus 23, verse 10. It says, "Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when you enter the land which I am going to give to you and reap its harvest, then you shall bring in the sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priests." So this is just following the Passover. And of course, we understand that if Yeshua was sacrificed, if he was crucified on Passover, then his resurrection happened on Bikurim, the first fruits. That makes sense, of course, even with the New Testament writings. We see it in 1 Corinthians 15, verses 20 and 21. There's first fruits language applied to Yeshua. It says now, 1 Corinthians 15, 20 and 21, "But now Messiah has been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who are asleep. For since by a man came death, by a man also came the resurrection of the dead." So Yeshua defeated death. He didn't remain dead. In fact, if we celebrated Passover, even talking about Messiah in the Passover, but didn't recognize that he didn't stay dead, if he was just a sacrifice and didn't resurrect, then the gospel would not have been complete, because he wouldn't have defeated death. But in fact, he did. He is the first fruits of those who are asleep, it says. For since by a man came death, by a man also came the resurrection of the dead. He is the first of many to come. We look forward, of course, to his return. God has prescribed a connection between the Passover and Shavuot, and he tells us to count the days in between, starting from the Sabbath within the Passover. And there's different opinions about which Sabbath that is, but we take the majority opinion. And so today then would be the first day of what's called the counting of the Omer. The Omer was a sheaf offering. It was a grain offering that we see in Leviticus 23:15. It says, "You shall also count for yourselves from the day after the Sabbath, the Passover Sabbath, from the day when you brought in the sheaf of the wave offering, there shall be 7 complete Sabbaths." So 7 full weeks, 49 days of counting. And then on the 50th day is Shavuot, or Pentecost. And of course, we know that in the first century, during the earthly ministry of Yeshua, this was the day following the resurrection. Shavuot is the day that the believers received the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. It's the day of Pentecost, and so many came to faith, and it was a remarkable thing, promised by God, of course, that Yeshua, our Messiah, would fulfill all of these holy days that he has prescribed since the beginning. So I want you to remember that. Let's celebrate that together. It's Passover. We're counting the Omer. It's first fruits. It's Resurrection Day. Yeshua, the first fruits of the resurrection of the dead. We can rejoice knowing that in him our salvation is paid for. He is the Passover lamb. He's the perfect matzah. He's the first fruits from the resurrection of the dead. He's all of it. He's all of it. So we can celebrate him in all of that. Looking forward, of course, to Pentecost, to Shavuot, the giving of the Spirit, the calling in towards even more intimacy with our Father, him indwelling our very selves, writing his Torah on our hearts, walking with us. We celebrate in the Passover about him bringing sweetness through all of our bitterness, right? The charoset versus the maror, the sweetness versus the bitterness. He doesn't promise to remove all of the bitterness from our lives, but to bring sweetness even through all of the bitterness. That's the intimacy that we can have with him. So rejoice in that today. Celebrate that with him today, with your friends and with your family. We'll see you very soon. Of course, we have our midweek services this week. We have our prayer meeting Tuesday, which will be virtual only. Wednesday evening, we will have our Bible study, just like always, 6:30. Come with a bite to eat. 7 o'clock, we'll start our study at Mission to the Military on Shell Road in Virginia Beach. And then, of course, Saturday morning, we have our Shabbat services. It's a special one because it'll be the end of Passover, but we also have a bat mitzvah that day, so that'll be fun for our whole community. Saturday evening will be our congregational Passover Seder at Kempsville Presbyterian Church at 7 p.m. You need to buy your tickets on the Beth Messiah website, bethmessiahsynagogue.com. And then next Sunday, as if we weren't busy enough, next Sunday we will be celebrating as a community Yom HaBikurim. We'll have our resurrection service, and that will be at Mission to Military as well, the same location where we normally have our midweek services. It's a lot of information, but all of it will be on our website, bethmessiahsynagogue.com. You can take a look there. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Bikurim Resurrection Day. Chag Sameach.